It's important to use your spotlight caches wisely. So in this video, we're going to dive into the Marvel Snap Spotlight tier list. We've put together a graph for you to help you in that decision making. A few things before we get started. Look, everybody's got a different collection. You might have certain cards. You might need certain cards. You might have a play style that fits some of these spotlights a little bit more than others. That is very, very important when factoring in what you might want to pull. You also might have different spending habits. If you spend a little bit more, it might be wiser to save some of these to get more exclusive cards because you have so many tokens that you can just get them from the shop. In our explanations of why we've ranked some of these tier lists, we'll try to help explain why we've got some that are ranked potentially lower than where you'd expect. We heavily factor in token cost in these because you're going to see some great cards in lower tiers. That doesn't mean it's a bad card. It just means that you might be able to go to the token shop and get it a little bit cheaper as opposed to spending a very, very valuable spotlight cache that you could use in a week that's got a bunch of really hard to get cards. So part of our goal here is to help spend tokens and these spotlight cache openings wisely. All right, so let's dive in. Before we jump to the graphic, we want to look at just generally speaking what's coming up. This is the order. Obviously, we're in the Lady Deathstrike week, but we're about to be in X23. That's going to come with Nebula and Silk. Then we're going to have Silver Samurai, Kitty Pryde, Spider-Man 2099. And then we get the September season. Now, we have not seen October yet. Hopefully, we'll get that information soon. Loki's going to come with 3 different cards that are not new. Obviously, that happens in the season pass. We've got Alioth with the expectation there is Hitmonkey and Snowguard from Data Mines. And then we've got Ravonna Renslayer with Jean Grey and Zabu. And then Mobius has come with King and a potentially TBD. Our speculation was that it needed to be a card like Legion or maybe Darkhawk to be able to get people into that week. You will see that right now, all of these are Series 5 with the exception of Ravonna Renslayer and Mobius M. Mobius. There's certainly some speculation on how good Mobius M. Mobius and Ravonna Renslayer are going to be. Right now, my gut tells me Mobius is going to be more worthwhile than Ravonna Renslayer. I think she might make some interesting decks. We'll see. Alioth is a no-brainer, really good card. He's going to win you a lane on turn 6, so I'm expecting that to be a pretty strong move. I might bring back Arrow for turn 6s, which is going to be interesting, but I do expect that to be a good card. Here's the Spotlight Cache tier list. Like and subscribe. Thanks. See you later. Comment below. Appreciate you. Tell your aunts, uncles, nieces, nephew a wonderful day, right? That's the video. Of course not. We're going to go into this a little bit. We've got these ranked for save for, solid, good niche, and easy skip. We'll go through each one of these. You will see one of these is sort of an overlap. We'll get to that in a second. So the easy skip section. Now, this is the one, there's going to be some controversial items in here. Obviously, the one you're going to see. So the first one we've got in here is that week of Ravonna Renslayer, and then the other one is Mobius M. Mobius. I will say I'm going to spend some time on this one because Zabu's a good card. He is. Why is Zabu an easy skip? Jean Grey isn't a bad card. Why is she an easy skip? For me, this came down to focusing in, like I said, on the tokens and the acquisition of the potential new card. Ravonna Renslayer, I think, is interesting, but I don't see her as a card that's like, oh, this is a must-have right now. Now, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below about what decks you think she's going to fit in, but I just look at it and go, I don't know. Now, Zabu is a fantastic, fantastic card that I would highly recommend getting. If you don't have any 3 of these cards, you are a newer player, maybe. But again, what I'd say to you is like, well, you could get Ravonna Renslayer and Zabu for 6,000 tokens. As opposed to, and that's one Series 5 card, as opposed to potentially risking a random Series 4 or 5 and a Jean Grey with a Spotlight. So that's why I ended up dropping this to Series or to easy skip, because I just looked at it as Zabu's a Series 4, Ravonna's a Series 4, Jean Grey's just, you know, she's not doing a whole lot right now. So I was like, I don't think I'm gonna, like, how can I recommend somebody to open Spotlights for this? Even if you don't have Zabu, or buy them from the shop. Like, just save up your tokens and do for that. Now, if you're somebody who's just like totally free to play, has no tokens saved up whatsoever, I would still question whether to do this. I think there's some potential other uses. I mean, again, Zabu's a great card. I'd also think that he might drop to Series 3 at some point, but then again, we don't know how these spotlight caches are going to work long term. So I think this is probably maybe the most controversial ranking of this whole thing. And I really ranked it this low because of the fact that it was so much Series 4 in here. And I just thought the use of the tokens as opposed to the use of the spotlights would be better serving to you in the long run. So that's why that landed there. And again, Jean Grey is not necessarily helping given where she's at in the game. I also did, for similar reasons, I have right now Mobius M. Mobius in this section. King, you saw in some of my like rankings for tier 4 or Series 4 and Series 5 cards, he was I think he might end up landing in don't buy. You don't want Kang. He's not doing anything right now. I was a Kang gang guy. I loved it. Use him. I spent like money to try to get him as a content creator because I thought, oh, this guy's going to bring so much fun content. No, he just fell on his face. Mobius and Mobius. Now look, right now there's some debate whether Mobius or Wave would win out. Mobius prevents your opponent from decreasing their cost of their card, and I think it prevents you from increasing the cost of yours. So it's great against Iceman. It's great against Baron Mordo, that, you know, crazy guy who's wrecking the meta. It's really good against your opponent if they're trying to play Zabu Sarah. So he's a good card. He's a solid card. But again, he's Series 4. If you're really worried about stuff like that, you could get him from the token shop. But, okay, so the thing that really was the debate about this was against Wave. Who wins? Does Wave still set all your cards to 4, even though Mobius is saying, no, you can't increase the cost of mine, and you can't decrease the cost of yours? Does he beat Wave? But if you look at Wave and the way the text is written and the things that Glenn has said in the past, Wave sets the cost at 4. He does not, or she does not increase or decrease the cost. She sets it. And I think that terminology is very intentional. I do think that Second Dinner needs to go back and sort of course correct some of the text on their card so it's clear on what is being set versus what is increased and decreased. And certainly some set situations are going to have to be understood as having certain hierarchy, like Sabretooth, his cost gets set at 0. Well, okay, if he's set at 0 and Wave is setting at 4, well, but Wave wins. And that's the type of thing that you just got to remember, is basically that Wave always wins in those situations. So here with Mobius and Mobius, because it's about a cost reduction or increase, then he's not going to beat Wave. But then at the same time, does that also mean that he's going to prevent your opponent from setting Sabretooth down at 0? That's some questions that we have. We don't know the answers yet. Point being, right now, Series 4, those aren't for sure known. I mean, if you're just looking at Iceman's, Baron Mordo's, preventing Zabu's and Sarah's, okay, if you really want this card, go get it from the token shop for 3K. That's just the way I look at it. And again, we don't know what the last card is, but I think even at the top end, if it's a Legion, which I think is arguably probably the best card they can drop in here, maybe I might move it up some. All right, next we've got Good Niche, and we're going to cover the one showing here in a second because I have it ranked sort of on the border there, and there's a good reason for that. So the one that we've got in here that's, you know, clearly Good Niche is this week that we're going through right now, which is about over. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. I've talked about it. The week's almost over by the time you see this. Lady Deathstrike's interesting. She's a semi-fun card if you can get the lineup of, you know, Wong, Mystique, Shuri, Lady Deathstrike, and you've got magic in the game and it doesn't get turned over, and then you can Zola it. Like, yeah, that's a super fun play line, and it's a great meme situation. I have had a couple situations where she's been a fun tech card, but at 5 cost, it's just really expensive. I do get worried about 4 cost because then with Zabu, but honestly, even if it's at 3 cost, it's not, I don't know. I feel like, well, so what are you going to do with it? Like, yeah, you could play it late, but it's still only 3 costs. So I don't know. Right now, this card just feels a little clunky, not great. I think it probably should have been a Series 4 release, frankly. I do expect it to potentially get OTA'd. We'll see. So that would be the only reason to potentially open a spotlight for this if you're looking for the new card, is that you think there might be an OTA. I said it previously, MODOK and Stature are really good cards. They are niche cards for their particular type of deck. I know that's kind of goes without saying, but they are very isolated in those things. I think Stature's got more flexibility than either of these other 2 cards, and I do think she's really good. I think once Silver Samurai comes out, I think she's going to be even better. So if you're thinking about something like that and you really want Stature, then this isn't a bad week to open. But there's so many good weeks coming that that's where it kind of falls down. So the spotlight that I said that I wanted to save and wait is the Jeff week. This is the first week of September, and I have this on the edge of Good Niche and Solid. The reason I originally had this on Good Niche was because, well, Null is just a destroy card. That's it. Ghost Spider is a move card, but Ghost Spider, they didn't have the right values here. It's actually costs 1 and has 2 power. So it's a little bit easier to use and move cards around. So she can fit in some other decks and it's not as stressful. Jeff, though, man, that card is so versatile. It's not niche at all. It goes in so many things. It helps you in so many situations if somebody plays around, whether it's Professor X or a funky Legion play or a Storm play. Jeff is just really, really good. So I can't leave a spotlight with decent other cards in good niche, because Null is a good card. Jeff is a fantastic card. You'll hear people talk about he's the best card in the game, you know, and you can't take a card like that and rank it low. It just doesn't make sense. And then Ghost Spider's not bad. So as far as tokens go, you know, Null is going to be 3K. Ghost Spider's, I think she's still Series 5 at the moment, so that would be 6K. You're never going to spend tokens on Ghost Spider. Don't do it. Jeff, I spent 6,000 tokens on. So why would you not open this week if you needed Jeff and Null? It would make perfect sense to me. I would get it. It'd feel a little bad if you got the Ghost Spider, but I would only open this week if you're maybe not really sure about some of the other cards coming. And if you need Null, you might need some of these other cards coming. And that's where I was like, well, man, that's how do you get so many spotlights? But again, that's sort of the point of the system. So I have this one right on the border of good niche and solid, mainly because I think if you're just trying to get Jeff, if you're only focused on Jeff, I think I'd rather just spend the tokens to get him versus spotlights. That's the way I look at this one, because you're not going to get a brand new card. If you're really a destroy player and you've already got Null, then there's other cards coming that you're going to want to get your spotlights for. So that's why I personally have that on the border of good niche and solid. So then within solid, we've got 2 weeks. Let's focus on the week we got coming up first. X23. So we were talking about destroy and Null a second ago. X23 is a critical part of that archetype. She's going to give you energy. Now, the hard part about this is if she goes to locations you don't want to destroy anymore. So say you've already got a Venom on the board and it ate everything, and she goes to that lane, and then all you've got is Carnage. Are you going to Carnage your X23 and your 9-point Venom? I mean, you're losing points to gain 1 energy next turn. That's where I get a little worried about this type of card, is like, okay, well, how much can I do this? So you've got to be really smart and hope to get the order that you need to be able to continue to destroy her. But again, energy and more energy in these games, being able to draw out more cards is really critical. Getting higher cost cards played early, really critical. So I think that there's a chance that she's still going to be really good. I think a lot of people are going to go for her. Nebula is a fantastic card. It's one of the best 1-cost cards in game. You don't see her as much anymore, but she's still really good. Silk, there's all these Silk arguments that I was having on Twitter, Discord, and the YouTube comments. I'm not a Silk hater. Again, I would just not pay 6,000 tokens for her. Sorry, I know Lambie's made some great decks. I know she fits in good places. I know she can build up Craven. That's awesome. She's got a great cost to power ratio. It's awesome. I get it. I just think in a situation where you've got 6,000 tokens, not a lot of people have that. To get a card like Silk might not feel great. But if you have her, she's great. She's cool, but she might lose you games too because she swings into a bad lane. But if you can learn to control which lane she can swing into a little bit by clogging one and making it so she only goes between 2, that can be pretty solid. And that's sort of the way that you might want to play her. But the focus here, X23, destroy. I think I might have had this one as a good niche before because of the fact that X23 was destroy, and I was a little worried about the play order of where she could be. But the fact that she gives energy is something that I think needs to be focused on, and that you absolutely got to factor in when ranking the spotlight. I'm 100% going to open here. I've got both Nebula and Silk. I have to admit, I'm expecting to pull 4 here. I got Lady Deathstrike in my first pull last week, so I'm due for a bad pull week. And this is the week where it's like, oh man, please don't have a bad pull week, because I've got all of these cards except for X23. So I'm like, well, if I pull a random series 4 or 5, I hope it is like a living tribunal, which I don't have. But I think all said and done, if you're a destroy player, pull for this week. If you're not, I would still heavily consider waiting. If you're really on the fence, wait a few days, see how people like X23. I think some people are really going to like her, but I also think that you're going to see a lot of people talking about how it can be hard to get her to explode and be destroyed multiple amounts of times. The last card, or the last spotlight that we have in the solid week, is this Silver Samurai week, which is the last one in August. I think Silver Samurai and Dakin are going to go really well together. I mentioned Stature. I think there's going to be a great deck there. I think Silver Surfer is going to play into that as well. Zabu, all of these different things that inherently play pretty well together, I think are going to make Silver Samurai a fantastic card. Kitty Pryde is still a great card. Spider-Man 29 is the weakest card in this group, in my opinion. He's an interesting card. I just think, again, like one destroy, it's random. You know, it's just not all that great. What if you destroy the one power card? That's not going to feel good. You know, you've made this effort to bring it over there. It's like, okay, well, cool. Now, I need Spider-Man 2099, so again, I'm going to try to open this week. I wouldn't mind opening 2. It'd be great to get Silver Samurai and Spider-Man. But I also have to be careful because I also know that coming up is the save for, which is Alliance. And again, everybody was upset when they saw Snowguard in this. Frankly, look, I don't know why you would be upset. I'm just going to say it to you like that. There's no reason to be upset. There are two fantastic cards in this week. Alioth and Hitmonkey are both good cards. Hitmonkey's fallen off a little bit with some of the OTAs that have hit him, but you're not going to have a card as good as Alioth, a card that's, I'll say, top-ish end of with Hitmonkey, and then put another good card in here. They're going to put one of the lower cards in the game here, which is Snowguard. It's to be expected. Anyway, having said as much as I need to about that, Alioth is just a good card. You can win a lane last turn. It doesn't matter priority. If you're winning or if you need 5 points in that lane, Alioth is the win there. Now, Armor certainly counters it. Cosmo counters it if they've got priority. Sure. But they're only going to know that in situations like Conquest. But again, you know, you might be able to move this around a little bit. I mean, I don't know if there's a play with Sarah with this, and maybe you have an Alioth and a 1-cost card. You know, maybe you sneaking in Silver Samurai. You've got that stature for that last turn play. So you can play Alioth and stature on another lane. Like, those are all really good things to do. I just think Alioth is going to have a lot of play. I think you're going to definitely see the Wave, Electro, Galactus early turn plays, and then Alioth on that last. I mean, that's a guaranteed win last turn. Like, no matter what you do, if you get a Galactus down, unless that person plays some insane card on 5 there, you've won. You've won, because Alioth is going to destroy whatever they put there, again, unless it's an Armor and or a Cosmo type situation. But if you lay down an Armor, that's only 3. You better have more points than whatever else I put on the board. So this week, to me, is definitely like, it's just the week to save for. Absolutely the week to save for. So that's what we got. Again, I want to give a shout out to GC James. Talk to him a little bit about some of these this week as well. Not saying he agrees with these. I just like to bounce things off other people. I think he's a really good person to bounce things off and get creative with. I feel generally comfortable where these are. Like I said, I wanted to explain some of them, like the Zabu one, because I think that one's going to get a lot of flack. I think maybe the Mobius one being a little low flack, but I think, again, I feel comfortable putting those where they're at. I'd love to hear from you in the comments below, or join the Discord, which is linked in the description below. Where are you at with all this? What are you saving? Again, let me know what your position is in game when you say, like, look, this is a stupid ranking, or I agree with that ranking. I'm this type of player. That's the type of thing I want to hear back from you, so that I can kind of understand where people's mentalities are and how they might rate or think about ranking these type of things. If you made it this far in the video, I very much appreciate it. If you want to further support the channel, we've got Join on YouTube, we've got Patreons, we've got hammering down on the like button, which helps the algorithm the most. I've noticed a ton of people who watch these videos are not subscribers, so if you consider subscribing, I very much appreciate that. And until next time, we hope you have a wonderful day.